One second, you're hearing this sentence. You can feel the chair under you. You know exactly who you are. And then, one day, something changes. Your heart stops. Your brain begins to shut down. And your body starts a process that every single human who has ever lived will eventually go through. For thousands of years, people have asked the same question. What actually happens second by second after we die? Some believe there's something beyond it. Some believe it's simply the end. But science has found something neither side expected. Dying isn't a light switch. It's not instant. It's a process, and it starts with one small, powerful event. The heart stops beating. That one event changes everything. Blood stops moving, oxygen stops arriving, and your brain, which burns roughly 20% of your body's entire energy supply, despite being a fraction of its weight, is the first organ to feel it. Within seconds, it starts to struggle. Consciousness fades, not because the brain explodes or shuts off, but because it can no longer keep the lights on the way it used to. But here's the part almost nobody expects. The brain does not go quiet right away. In 2013, researchers studying dying rats recorded something bizarre. A massive spike in brain activity in the seconds after the heart stopped, more organized, more intense than anything recorded while fully awake. In 2022, doctors caught the same thing by accident in a dying human patient, while monitoring his brain for something unrelated. Scientists have started calling this moment the most alive your brain may ever be. Is this the bright light people describe? The wave of peace? The flash of a whole life? We don't know for certain. But researchers studying near-death experiences have a theory. As the brain loses oxygen, it may release a flood of stress chemicals and fire in unusual, powerful patterns that create vivid memories, sensations of floating, even the feeling of seeing people who aren't there. Nobody's proven it, but it's the closest thing science has to an answer. At this point, a doctor writes one word: dead. Clinically, no pulse, no breath. But here's what should genuinely unsettle you. Clinical death can be reversed. Sometimes. CPR, a defibrillator, a few desperate minutes, and people have come back. Some after nearly 20 minutes in freezing water. There's even a name for when someone spontaneously revives after doctors have already stopped. Lazarus syndrome. Rare. Documented. Real. So if the heart has already stopped, what is the brain still doing in there? No oxygen coming in. So the brain does something almost intelligent. It starts shutting itself down, piece by piece, on purpose. Like a city cutting power block by block during a blackout, saving what little energy is left for what matters most. The newest, most human parts go first. Planning, self-control, complex thought. Deeper, older structures fight a little longer. Your eyes stop processing. Your ears stop processing. But here's a fact that might get under your skin. Hearing may be one of the very last senses to go. Some researchers believe dying patients can still register sound after every other response has already stopped. The outside world goes dark first. The inside takes a little longer to follow. So when does maybe become never? Without oxygen, brain cells don't quietly switch off. They die in waves, one triggering the next, faster and faster. Around 5 minutes without blood flow, that wave becomes unstoppable. This is brain death, the true point where the organ that makes you can't be rebooted. But cold changes everything. In freezing water, the brain's oxygen needs drop so low that people have survived over an hour without a pulse. Revived with no lasting damage after being clinically dead far longer than should be survivable. Cold doesn't just slow the body down, it rewrites the countdown. While the brain is fighting its last fight, something else has already begun. Quietly, almost invisibly. The body starts changing the moment the heart stops. Not hours later. Now. The first change you'd never notice unless you were looking for it. Body temperature starts dropping. Scientists call this algor mortis. Without warm blood circulating, the body slowly drifts toward the temperature of the room around it, a process investigators actually use to estimate time of death. At the same time, the muscles begin to relax. All that tension you carry every day, without even realizing it, gone. The eyes may stay partly open because the tiny muscles that once controlled them have simply stopped working. Here's where it gets strange. With the heart no longer pumping, blood doesn't just stop moving, it starts settling, pulled by gravity to whichever part of the body is lowest. This creates dark, bruise-like patches under the skin called livor mortis. And it's so predictable, so consistent, that forensic scientists use it to figure out exactly how a body was positioned after death and roughly how long ago it happened. The skin itself starts changing color because blood is no longer moving through it the way it used to. And yet, inside, some cells are still alive, still functioning. Different tissues die at wildly different speeds. The body isn't a machine that switches off all at once. It's more like a city losing power neighborhood by neighborhood. A few hours later, one of the most famous processes in death begins: rigor mortis. The muscles stiffen. The whole body temporarily locks in place. Why? Because after death, cells can no longer produce the energy required to let muscles relax. The chemical system that controls every movement you've ever made simply runs out of fuel and freezes. This stiffness isn't permanent. As decomposition continues, it fades again, the body loosening for a second and final time. And now comes the part humans have feared since the beginning of recorded history: decomposition. But here's the twist. It isn't something attacking the body from outside. It begins from within. The trillions of bacteria that have lived peacefully inside you your entire life, kept in check by your immune system, are suddenly free, unchecked, and they begin multiplying, releasing gases and chemicals that transform the body from the inside out. This isn't destruction, it's recycling. Nature, doing exactly what it's always done, turning what was once alive into something new. Here's the fact that changes how a lot of people think about all of this. The atoms that make up your body are ancient, older than the earth itself. The carbon in your cells may have once been part of a plant, an animal, an ocean, or billions of years ago, the heart of a dying star. When your body eventually returns to the earth, those same atoms don't disappear. They simply move on, into soil, into new plants, into new life, in a cycle that's been running since long before you existed and will keep running long after. You are, quite literally, borrowed stardust, on loan for one lifetime. Here's a fact worth sitting with. The average human heart beats roughly 3 billion times in a lifetime, and every one of us is spending those beats without knowing which one is the last. No warning, no countdown you can see, and yet most of us live like we've got unlimited time. To say the thing we're avoiding, to fix the relationship gone cold, to finally start the thing we keep putting off. The science says your brain doesn't give up quietly. It fights, fires, and searches for meaning right up until the very last second it possibly can. Maybe that's worth remembering next time you tell yourself later. So, no. Death isn't a switch. It's a process. A fade, a settling, a slow return to something older than you. For a few strange minutes, some part of you is still in there. Still firing, still somehow, still you. And then, piece by piece, you become part of something bigger than you ever were on your own. It's the one experience every human on Earth will eventually share and the one none of us has ever been able to fully explain.